The next book that I got at the bookstore when I got the chance to was Frankenstein. And I'm excited to read Frankenstein, but I might like wait a day or two so I can like have Dracula digest. Like wait a day or two. Like wait a day or two. Like wait a day or two. Yep, I definitely waited a day or two for that. Hi, it's me Maven, and this is a sequel to a video that I made last year. It's honestly one of my favorite ones, just kind of how cute and simple it is. I was talking about how much I liked Dracula, and honestly, I like Dracula so much that honestly it was really hard for me to get started on reading anything else. And then cut to around last week when my husband and I took a trip to the city, which is a big deal for us because we live in rural land. I got Carmilla and I got Legends and Lattes, and I decided, wait, I got Frankenstein around this time last year, so let me get that book and finish it. And I did, much faster than I actually anticipated. It took me like 2 days. I was pretty hooked on it, and I wanted to talk about it. I read it much faster than Dracula because it's about half the size of Dracula, so that made it a little easier to read. And let's talk about my thoughts on the book. Well, first of all, personally, I thought it was kind of a really hilarious story. There's several analyses on the internet about, like, the relationship between Dr. Frankenstein and his creation being like, you know, the consequences of trying to play God, relationships between a father and son going bad, or like an artist and an artist's creation going out of hand. Speaking of artists and their creations, I have something to show you. Rise! Rise, my new creation! Rise! Oh my goodness, it's so ugly! Ah! Okay, that was a little weird. Anyway, what was I talking about? To me, the personal takeaway from Frankenstein is honestly the consequences of hiding from your problems and hoping that they go away. Because let me tell you, if you let a problem sit long enough, it's gonna get worse. And Frankenstein is the perfect example of that. Just like my creator over there, I don't know what her problem was, but Victor is so funny because when the creature comes to life as intended, he's like, oh no, the consequences of my actions, and then he runs away and doesn't see it again. And he's like, well, thank goodness all that's over. And then everything gets worse because he gets too scared to tell anyone what happened. You know, at first the creature is really sympathetic. You know, he's telling his whole life story. It's like, oh, poor guy. And then, yeah, I was rooting for him, and I thought, oh, maybe the tragedy of what happened to Victor's little brother, William, was a tragic accident. No, it was straight up cold-blooded murder. The kid's like, unhand me, my dad's Frankenstein. And Creature's like, oh, I'm so glad you told me. Like, maybe if it was like just one incident, maybe he could have gotten a pass in the story. But nope, he just keeps going. Like, Victor does not think of anyone but himself. Like, when he's trying to build a bride for the creature, he's all like, wait, they might have babies. Time to destroy the entire thing. Buddy, you know, Victor, there's like a vital organ that you could take out to make that impossible. Like, if you can make a creature to begin with, then I'm pretty sure you can do the bare minimum. Probably the worst instance of Victor's self-absorption is when, after Victor destroys his work in progress, the monster comes back and he's all like, I'll be there on your wedding night. And Victor's like, oh, he's gonna end my life. I'll be ready. And while Victor is, you know, doing patrol on his wedding night, you know, he's like, oh, is he here? Is he gonna get me here? All signs showed that the creature was going after all of your loved ones to torture you. He had like months to prepare for this too. Victor, you're a dummy. I'm sorry. You may be a genius, but you're a dummy. Okay, so spoilers for the ending, but honestly the funniest part to me was at the end of the book is when the monster is on the boat talking to the captain, and he's like, well, I'm the victim here. It made me feel bad to kill all these people. Anyway, I'm gonna go travel up further north and set myself on fire. Bye! I love it. I do recommend reading it. it's a good book. It's a good book, but like everything is so ridiculous because all of this could have been avoided. Anyway, back to my creator. Lastly, I actually briefly want to talk about the book Carmilla, which is half the size of Frankenstein, which is about half the size of Dracula. So luckily for me, it was a pretty quick read and honestly really engaging. I really liked it. I kind of don't want to spoil too much, but I do want to let my vampire counterpart, which is not as ugly as the other counterpart, to talk more about it. Carmilla time. Okay, so I don't want to say too much because of how short the story is, but of the two, I enjoyed Carmilla a lot more, which I wasn't expecting to. Basically, the story is of a young woman named Laura who witnesses a carriage accident, and the victim of the accident stays for a few months at her castle. And that person is a mysterious woman around her age named Carmilla. Some of the events that happen in the book is Carmilla being a vampire and everyone else is clueless. Everyone's like, huh, that's weird. One funny one is where they get some restored paintings and they're like over 100 years old, and one of the paintings looks just like Carmilla, and everyone's like, hey, that looks just like you. It even has the mole on your neck. But what makes this much different than Dracula and Frankenstein, though, is the kind of intimate relationship Carmilla has with the main character, Laura. Yeah, Carmilla and Laura seem to be very good friends. Very good friends. In all seriousness, Carmilla is loved by everyone in the castle, even Laura's father. They trust her, which makes the danger that Carmilla holds much more intense. Compared to Dracula, the closest relationship we get is Jonathan when he stays at Dracula's castle, but even then, Jonathan starts noticing how weird everything is pretty quickly. And for the rest of the book, everything we know is just secondhand accounts. There is so much more I want to say about the story, but I hope that you find a chance to give it a read yourself. Anyway, back to other me. So those are my thoughts on Frankenstein and Carmilla. This is kind of another topic I kind of wanted to briefly discuss, just something to think about. But kind of one reason why I want to read more. First of all, I find myself scrolling way too much online. And I realized that, like, oh gosh, I'm just looking at, like, the same stuff. I remember one time I was, like, without internet for, like, a week. And when I went back on, I was thinking, oh, what kind of crazy stuff happens? Like, you know what? Everything's kind of, like, more or less the same. I think I need to do something else to make my brain active, you know? Also, kind of a benefit that I didn't anticipate was if I read before I go to bed, I am most likely, not every time, but I am most likely to sleep in a little longer. And that's nice because I wake up so early all the time, and then when daylight savings happens, I'm like, oh great, it's annoying. All I'm doing is complaining, huh? Anyway, my headset's getting a little sweaty, and I hope that you found something interesting. Also, I'm gonna. This is the first time I'm ever gonna do this, but like, do that thing where you subscribe and do the thumbs up. Subscribe, thumbs up. Subscribe, thumbs up. One thing that I remember is when I was a kid, there was a song that we learned in kindergarten, and I've never forgotten it, and this is how it goes. In the graveyard where the moon begins to shine, there's a doctor, crazy doctor, and his monster Frankenstein. Oh my monster, oh my monster, oh my monster Frankenstein. You are looking very scary, oh my monster Frankenstein.